I am so sick and tired of the liberal agenda that is destroying our country, from our schools to our workplaces to our media. It's literally everywhere. Well, everywhere maybe, but not this show. Never. Here you get the truth, unfiltered and unapologetic. I don't care if I hurt feelings or if I take a position that isn't agreeable or if I step on somebody's toes. I call them the way I see them, and then I put it out there for free. To keep this show free, I need your help. Please go to nickdip.com and make a contribution, or even better, subscribe at thecomicsgym.com or on Patreon today and get an extra Encore show each day. Discounts on merchandise and a whole lot more. Thank you guys so much for watching, sharing, and contributing to the best show, in my opinion, on the internet and the most honest. You guys make it happen. Welcome to the show, folks, on a Thursday. I can't think of a better way to open the show. I'm a big fan of this guy. I've been watching him on TV for years. He's a New York Times #1 best-selling author, creator of the second highest grossing political documentary of all time. He worked in the Reagan administration. His latest book is U.S. of Socialism, which is another big hit, and you got to read it. Please welcome to the show, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Good to be on the show.
I've been watching you for a long time, and you make a lot of sense to me and a lot of people. First of all, for you to get to #1 on the New York Times bestseller, that's a feat in itself. I mean, you know, with your conservative beliefs, right?
Yeah, that New York Times bestseller list is a rigged operation. So typically, if you're #1, they'll put you down as #7.
Right.
And this is a game that they play, and I think everyone knows it now. So it's an open secret that their bestseller list is kind of bogus.
Yeah, they couldn't even keep you off it. That's how good the book was. Let me make a couple points as far as the unrest that's going on in this country today. I just want to give you my pseudo-intellectual opinion on two components, I think, that have caused most of it. And I realize the George Floyd thing was the tip-off. I think we all realize it's become more than that. It's not just about police brutality. But as far as that goes, for the last 30 years, the way the mainstream media has cherry-picked racial stories and created this narrative that only, white cops and white people are racist, that's been going on forever with no pushback. I think that's the biggest culprit. And the other thing is we never talk about black culture maybe making some changes, because that's off limits on TV. Do you think those two things have a lot to do with what's going on?
Well, I think the first one is directly on point, because even if you leave aside the rioters and the looters and focus just on the peaceful protesters, what they are about is selling a narrative. And the narrative is that the cops are inherently racist. And how do they become that way? Well, they are part of a racist culture, and our economic system is racist, and the country is racist, and it's been that way since the beginning.
Right.
So this is the narrative. The left is very good at putting out these narratives, and unfortunately for the conservative side, we don't do as well in stating our narrative. We will cite facts. We will say things like, oh, wait, there are more white guys who are likely to be killed by a cop, and so on. But a fact doesn't overthrow a narrative. A narrative is an interpretation of facts that makes sense of the facts and ultimately tells a kind of story. So it's really important for us to A, tell those stories, and B, have megaphones big enough to get them out.
That's I'm sorry. That's what I wanted to say. What good is having a narrative if you don't have the megaphones? And it seems like, mainstream media forever has been liberal. Now they have social media. How do we? I mean, we have Fox News, and when it comes to race, they have to tiptoe around it. How do we get guys like you, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity? But how do we get more megaphones, I guess? How did the libs get a hold of the media and not the conservatives back in the day?
It's partly, I think, because our side tends to go into entrepreneurship, to start businesses. Our guys go into the military, so that by and large we have culturally abandoned these fields. Think of how few conservatives go into academia,
Great
for example.
point.
How few go into media. So the bias is one thing, it's there,
right?
But it's also there that we don't invest financially, and enough of our people don't go into these fields. So we ultimately, I think, long term, need to create our own institutions where we have our own networks, our own educational institutions. We don't have to fight with CNN. We just don't watch them. We don't even really know about them. We don't have to look at the New York Times bestseller list. We don't care what they say. It has we have to reduce the power of the media in our minds.
Right. My second point about I keep hearing reforming the police. Don't there have to be some changes? Who was the senator? Was it Moynihan or somebody addressed this back in the 60s about the black illegitimacy rate, and it hasn't changed. I mean, and they're producing, there's kids growing up with no dad, no authority, and that's why when they come in contact with the cops, can't we address that, or is that considered racist? I don't even hear anybody talking about it. And I think it's a big part of what's going on.
Yes. Well, I mean, what's happened is that the Democrats have encouraged dependency. And with dependency, I think, comes a lot of other social pathologies. I mean, just think, for example, of a family that has no income.
Right.
I mean, no earned income.
Right.
Its income is coming ultimately through a series of federal grants and things. And where women realize that if I stay with my husband, I'm not going to get that $400 check. But if I'm on my own, I can have my own apartment. So we create a whole set of, you may say, dysfunctional incentives. And all of this has taken a terrible toll. Now, once again, I think it's incumbent on Trump and the Republicans to lay out a kind of liberation plan. You can almost call it a how do we get off the plantation plan, and seriously sell it. Sell it in black communities. Now, Trump has been actually quite forthright in trying to start this process. But there's a long way to go. If we can break the back of the Democratic plantation, we will break the back of the Democratic Party.
That's true. They're all about power and keeping people reliant on them in those programs. Explain what you mean when you say leftists are using this Floyd injustice to propagate mutated socialist ideas. I know what you mean. Marx and those guys were they pretended to be about the working class, but you say this is different, this new ideology in this country, right?
Yeah, you've got socialists in America today who care more about abortion than about the minimum wage. They care more about the transgender bathroom than they care about universal basic income. They would much rather pull down the Robert E. Lee monument than they would, let's say, fight for higher union wages. So what this tells you is that you have a kind of cultural Marxism that has now bled into traditional kind of economic socialism, and that race and gender, so-called identity politics, is now at the heart of it. That's what the Floyd narrative gave the left. It gave the left the opportunity to use it as a kind of diving board, a launching pad for this big, larger narrative, and to put out a big lie. Well, here's the big lie. The Democratic Party has been the party of the slave plantation. In fact, most people don't realize, but there weren't massive plantations in America at the time of the founding. There was slavery, but not the plantation system.
Right. Death of a Nation is about that, right?
Yes, it totally is.
Yeah.
So the Democrats were not just the party of slavery, but segregation and Jim Crow and the Ku Klux Klan and racial terrorism and lynching. So think about it. Here's a party. I mean, these are the racial arsonists, if you will, of American history. And now these same characters are dressed up as the firefighters. They're supposedly pretending to be the solution to the problem that they created. This is the media's big lie. Hiding the responsibility of the Democratic Party is the whole mission, the lifelong mission of American progressive historiography and also of the mainstream media coverage of this issue.
What do you say to a guy like Bill Maher who goes, that's not the Democratic Party today. We've reformed ourselves. What do you say to people that make that argument?
that the Democratic Party has in fact made a shift, but the shift is not in whether or not it exploits blacks, but in how it exploits them. So the old exploitation was based upon stealing blacks' labor. And the new exploitation is based upon creating enough dependency that you ultimately exploit blacks for their vote. You don't do anything for them. You don't lift them out of lifelong misery. In fact, you create intergenerational poverty and dependency so those guys can never walk off the plantation. Lyndon Johnson understood exactly what he was doing. He was creating a new form of the plantation when the old one became obsolete.
We're talking to a best-selling author, Dinesh D'Souza. I noticed most of this unrest and rioting is going on in liberal-run cities, and they're sort of sitting on the sideline flaccidly, not doing anything. What is that? What is that? I mean, are these, is Antifa, are they going to go to suburbs like they say they are? And I just think they have this, they're gaining confidence, but these liberal mayors are just sitting around because they actually agree with their ideology to an extent, no?
Yeah, I address this in the new book, United States of Socialism, which is why would a mayor like de Blasio in New York,
right.
Why would he be not only indifferent to, but he seems in a sense tacitly to be encouraging? Well, of course, first of all, his own daughter was arrested during the protests. And if you look at her mugshot, it's straight out of the Manson family compound.
I saw that.
But leaving that aside,
right.
The situation here is that the mayor like de Blasio looks at these young looters and he sees a younger version of himself. He was like that when he was a teenager. And if he was a teenager now, he would probably be joining those guys. So you can almost look at modern socialism as an effort to do in an organized way what the looters are doing in a disorganized way. So the looters smash a window, they run into a store, they run out with a bunch of sneakers or a bunch of handbags.
Right.
Well, what de Blasio would like to do is impose 80% confiscatory tax rates. So in a systematic way, he loots all this wealth, then he redistributes it in exchange for votes. That's the Democratic racket. And you have to be blind today not to see that these are people, they could care less about George Floyd. Their big liturgical kind of group kneeling ceremony with the kente cloth. I mean, this is like high comedy because it's like the Pharisees. You put on a massive display of public piety while actually you're trying to figure out how you gain more money and power.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Biden speaking at the funeral, and it was, he had this over-dramatic voice and just saying the same talking points we've heard, which brings me to the election. People are watching what's going on in the cities and in the country right now, even with the mainstream media favoring the Democrats and having the blowhorn. Don't you think the people in the middle are going to say, I think Trump is a law and order guy, I'm going to vote for him? How's that? Is this helping Trump? I mean, these radicals in Seattle taking over neighborhoods, I got to believe it's helping a little bit, even though his approval ratings aren't that good right now.
Well, I think that people are going to see, even Democrats, if you live in New York City or you live in Seattle, I mean, do you really want to live in a place where the stores have to be boarded up and you can't walk on the street without looking over your shoulder? And if you call 911, they might well send you a social worker instead of a cop. I mean, this is madness. And I think the suburban housewives, looking at it in Atlanta and in Tennessee and in North Carolina, I think they're going to realize that Trump is what stands between the American people and total chaos.
How about the suburban housewives in Philadelphia who always vote Democrat? Are they going to smell the coffee and wake up?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a real shift. I also think that Trump, by the way, is going to get a big chunk of the black vote. The left already senses this.
Yes, they're nervous.
They're freaked out about it. Some of their craziness can be explained by their absolute fear that Trump will make a deep indentation in the African American vote.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this: where are the Republicans? I mean, they're not pushing back. I always see the same guys, Jim Jordan, pushing back a little bit. But where are the Republicans? All this mess, they're just sitting on the sideline quietly. And as somebody who votes Republican, it's very disappointing to me. Where are they in all this?
Republicans are very bad at cultural politics, and they're even worse at racial politics.
Right.
One reason we got Trump is that we've been nominating one Boy Scout after another, and then these guys get beaten to a pulp, not only by the economic attack, but the racial attack. You're a racist, and suddenly Mitt Romney goes into the fetal position. He runs under his desk. He puts and he's never to be seen again. So this kind of, just absolute invertebrate behavior is now unacceptable. I think the Republican base has no tolerance for it, but the leadership hasn't fully gotten the message.
Yeah, I don't know. They're lost right now. I also think that they're afraid, the Republicans, when social media comes after you, like you said, the libs have the mainstream media, they have social media, and they, when they say boycott a show or a business, it happens sometimes. The Republicans don't have that kind of power, do they?
They actually do, but they don't use it in a tactically effective way. A tactically effective way is not to do something generic, like don't go to a Disney movie. A tactically effective way is to figure out how do you actually target and destroy the business plan of the company that you're going after. So, for example, if you target a company and you go on its website and review all of its products negatively, every single thing, not just political stuff, everything.
Right.
Basically, that's a critical part of their business. Every customer around the world who goes on that website sees those products that are reviewed negatively, and they go, "Wow, maybe I don't want to buy from this company anymore." Now that is called a targeted attack. It's extremely effective. Our psychology isn't like that. The left thinks like that. They think, how do we destroy this guy's business plan? We don't. If I go on Twitter tomorrow, there are 10 paid leftists who will jump on my site and start bashing me.
Right.
But if Nancy Pelosi goes on Twitter, we have nothing like the equivalent doing the same thing.
That's
We
right.
don't make fun of her, call her ugly, insult her grandchildren, try to degrade her. We don't think like that, but maybe we should.
Well, you haven't seen my show, apparently, but I spend half my time doing that. Final question, because I'll let you go. Why are people warming up? How are people warming up to the idea of socialism? I didn't think it would even get this far, this quick. Should I be nervous?
Well, I think we should be. It's a real threat. Socialism has never been in the mainstream of American politics before. There's never been a genuine prospect that even under the Great Depression, that America would become socialist. But I think the reason it's gaining a legitimacy now, well, first of all, the mainstream of the Democratic Party is at least silently okay with it. They may not have gone for the explicit socialism of Bernie, but they are embracing the creeping, or you may say creepy, socialism of Biden. And so I think we have to take the threat seriously. We also know that the left deploys the deep state. They now have a paramilitary with Black Lives Matter and Antifa. So we're up against it. We should not have any illusions.
Right.
I think we can beat it, but only if we're educated, we're smart, and we fight really tough.
There you go. Spoken with somebody who's followed this stuff for years and written about it. Dinesh, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I've been watching for a long time. Huge fan, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Dinesh, his last book, U.S. Of Socialism, and go out and see or watch it on TV, Death of a Nation. Folks, you'll learn so much about how evil the left really is. So, Dinesh, I appreciate it, man. Okay, let's get right to it. Boy, Christopher Columbus statues toppled in Richmond and beheaded in Boston. That's Christopher Columbus. I'm Italian. I love the guy.
You goddamn guineas really make me laugh.
Why? Why? Oh, fucking Boston. I am so ashamed of my hometown politically. It's sickening what it's turned into. Can you imagine where it all started? The Boston Tea Party. Now they're fucking practically Marxists. They're trying to out-left San Francisco. Just disgusting. You know why? A lot of college kids, a lot of overeducated, brainwashed kids running around Boston. Statues of Christopher Columbus were targeted by protesters in Massachusetts and Virginia on Tuesday night in an act of solidarity with indigenous people. All 6 of them. The 8-foot tall memorial to the explorer in Richmond, Virginia was pulled down with ropes and dragged roughly 200 yards to nearby landing at Foundation Lake. It was also reportedly briefly lit on fire. by fuck stains and the parents who raised these fuck stains. The base of the statue is covered in graffiti, and protesters held signs reading, "This land is Powhatan land." Excuse me if I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't speak Native American. And Columbus represents genocide. And to that I say, fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck Powhatan. Oh, God, help me. We're going to start tearing down other statues? Huh? Is the right going to start waking up and smelling the coffee? You know, Malcolm X used violence. You know, MLK Jr., you know, he had affairs with over 40 women. And he sat by and watched a pastor friend of his rape a woman. This is all sealed FBI documents. Hashtag me too. Is that, what's the statute of limitations on that? And we going to pull down those statues? Or did some famous black person, where we have a statue erected, have we looked into their past and found it a little, or is it just a one-way street? Ridiculous. A makeshift headstone poster was also placed in front of the sunken statue in the water that read, "Racism, you will not be missed." You know what this is just illustrates how brainwashed these poor kids are and what academia has done to them for the last, I don't know how many decades. It's in their DNA. It's just drilled. You know what you're doing when you're pulling down and beheading a Columbus statue? You're doing the same thing the Nazis did when they invaded countries. It was the first thing they did. It's the same tactics ISIS uses. So just think about that, you fucking idiots on the left. Just think about it for a second. The figure was reportedly the first statue of Columbus erected in the South, according to the newspaper. It was dedicated in December of 1927. Vanessa, nobody had a problem with it, you know, for what, 80-something years. But here comes Generation Jerk-Off, brainwashed. Vanessa Boland, a member of the Richmond Indigenous Society, spoke to the crowd earlier in the night. She said, "This continent is built on the blood and bones of our ancestors, but it is built off the backs and the sweat and tears and the blood and the bones of Africans." Really? Where do my fucking grandparents fit in? Or the Irish? Where do they fit in? My grandmother cleaning college dorm rooms for 5 cents. My grandfather laying railroad track. Where do they fit in? What the fuck is this? Africans built this country. She said, "We're not here to hijack your movement. We're here to stand in solidarity," is what she said. To her, I say,
"Make me a sandwich. Make me a fucking sandwich."
Okay, Bolin, heavy on the mayo. Lots of bacon, you fucking brainwash. What? Another statue of Columbus was beheaded in Boston overnight in the park named after him. Several states have chosen to rename the federal holiday honoring Columbus into a celebration called Indigenous Peoples Day. Yeah, and a lot of people have said, fuck that, we're going to leave it the way it is. But, you know, go ahead. What do you think? You tear down these things and the history goes away? And this everything bad that happened previously goes away because you're tearing down symbolic things? That's literally the mentality of a fifth grader. But good luck with that. Time for a fucking civil war revolution. Where's all the white supremacists I've been hearing about? Don't see them raising hell yet. You guys have no idea what you're in for.
If you tear it down, how do you not repeat it?
Yes, that's what these murals and colleges that they're painting over, they're there for a reason. They're not there to go, hey, look what we did to the Indians and the black people. You know, they're there to remind younger generations that are coming up now that we had a horseshit past, but look how far we've come. It actually, that's what it is. You can look at the statue and you'll have to acknowledge the progress we've made as far as race and all that, but you don't want to do that. How are you going to teach your little snotty liberal fuck-stained kids that this country is racist if you wipe all symbols of it out? Absolutely ass. And again, all I'm going to say is it's what Hitler and the Nazis did. So congratulations. You got good company. Let's continue with the asinine. NASCAR banned the Confederate flag from its races, and guess what? Slavery went away. All inequality, racially, it all went away because they took down that flag. They banned it from races and properties on Wednesday, formally distancing itself from what for many is a symbol of slavery and racism that had been a familiar sight at stock car events for more than 70 years. Good move.
I think your brain is going soft.
Yeah, and a lot of white people died too, you know, and again, but let's take that down everywhere. You'll have you can't point to that now. And how's that going to go over with the NASCAR crowd? Because it's more simple for them about the South and stuff, and they had relatives die, whether the cause was right or wrong. And by the way, a lot of white people died to free slave. We don't hear about that. We don't talk about that. But NASCAR, you know, I want to see how this sits. It's sort of the equivalent of Kaepernick taking a knee in the NFL. I got to believe a lot of kids, tobacco chewing guys are going to go, fuck you. I'll build my own car. Never really got NASCAR. No offense, I just never got, you can fucking watch cars go in a circle for 2 hours and Jesus H. Christ, are you kidding me? We all know people go there to see him crash. Nick, that's not true. They can drive. I'm on your side, rednecks. Bubba Wallace, NASCAR's lone black driver, called this week for the banishment of the Confederate flag and said there was no place for them in the sport. Well, before you came along, what, now you're the fucking spokesman of the world? I think there's a lot of white people that go to NASCAR that would disagree, Bubba, and they're not racist. Jesus Christ, there's shit that hurts my feelings, too. Like every time I see the sign MLK Jr. Boulevard, I shit my pants because I know what's going on. Malcolm X High School. Yeah, he had a clean history. Fucking whitey, start digging into their past. The presence of the Confederate flag at NASCAR events runs contrary, this is NASCAR talking, to our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all fans. Yes, all 4 black fans that go to NASCAR. Get the fuck out of here. That's like when I watch a hockey game at Madison Square Garden and they're playing hip hop. Jesus H. Christ. Our competitors in our industry. NASCAR said bringing people together around the love for racing and the community that it creates is what makes our fans in sport special. The display of the Confederate flag will prohibit from all NASCAR events and properties. That's just terrific. The move was announced before Wednesday night's race at Martinsville Speedway, where Wallace, an Alabama native, was driving a Chevrolet that he had stolen from a neighborhood. Just kidding, folks. Relax. With a hashtag Black Lives Matter paint scheme. Wallace got a shout out on Twitter from several fucking moron athletes like LeBron James, whitey hater LeBron James, who was stuck in 1955, even though he's a trillionaire and he bounces a ball for a living. Ugh. I thought I liked it.
There's something wrong with the black man's mind. There's something wrong with his mind.
The flag issue has been a thorny one for NASCAR. Former chairman jerk-off Brian France in 2015 tried to ban the flying of the Confederate flags at race tracks, angering many fans. I don't know what they think has changed. Confederate flags still fly high atop infields, RVs, and are waved by fans in the grandstands at most tracks. NASCAR has been more open in recent times to the eradication of the Confederate flag. Several drivers, including 2-time Daytona 500 champion Denny Hamlin, said they supported Wallace in his quest to rid the sport of the flag. What else could you say? Let's dig up Dale Earnhardt and see what he has to say about it. He would have had a nice chaw in his mouth. Fuck that. Fucking paint my car with a Confederate flag. The predominantly white field of drivers must be racist because there's only predominantly white drivers. Over the weekend for a video promoting social change, they made a video, the white drivers. It's over, folks. It's over. White capitulation is the new sensation. Bah, bah. A black NASCAR official, Kirk Price, took a knee to blow any sponsors that would leave. Took a knee before Sunday's race near Atlanta in what may have been a first for the series. Wallace wore a black T-shirt with the words, "I can't breathe," at the race. Why don't you roll down the window and get some air? Oh, I mean, that flag, I understand. It might hurt some people's feelings, but this fucking world doesn't run on feelings, okay? No matter what your race is. How's that fucking sit with you? But we can let the new Black Panthers on TV, fucking threatening to shoot white people at the last election, but that's fine. I'm just asking for a little fairness, media. That's all. Why is it 110 in this motherfucker? Huh? We were bragging about this air conditioner. Ladies and gentlemen, the DonaldStuff.com keeps putting out new stuff, and this morning they sent over these 2 new designs. The first one speaks for itself. Fund the police. Look at that. Oh, it's in blue, gray, and black. I say everybody buy one. I said it should be mandatory for first graders and second graders. White kids. And this one, part of the Make America Safe Again collection. And what else do we got? Both of these designs are just $19.99. And if you use the promo code Nick, you get 10% off. They also have a bunch of Nick DiPaolo show related items. There I am in all my glory. That's a picture of me in high school saying, how did I get a D when I was sitting next to this kid who was way smarter than me? Anyway, lots of great stuff at thedonaldstuff.com. Go there and check out all the gear. Don't forget to use the promo code Nick. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. Speaking of Donald Trump rejects call to rename military base named after Confederate leaders. Somebody has some fucking balls.
You are correct, sir.
Declaring our history as the greatest nation in the world will not be tampered with, he said. It has been suggested that we should rename as many as 10 of our legendary military bases, such as Fort Bragg in North Carolina, Fort Hood in Texas, Fort Benning in Georgia. President Trump wrote on Twitter, these monumental and very powerful bases have become part of a great American heritage and a history of winning, victory, and freedom. The United States of America trained and deployed our heroes on these hallowed grounds and won 2 world wars, reminding you little shitty kids. In other words, people, guys, women that trained on those bases, some of them were shipped out. That was the last part of America they saw. Do you understand? But let's rename them and shit. In the name of what? I didn't realize there was so many fucking people that hated the country. I know there was a large portion, but you guys see it? It's coming to fruition. How many people have been brainwashed? The media's been pushing this shit for 40 years. So is the academia, and I think the fire finally caught the fucking. Therefore, my administration will not even consider the renaming of these magnificent and fabled military installations. Our history, let's see the fucking Antifa, see, maybe they'll go down to these bases and try to rip something down or burn something. You know what they really want to do? They want to rip down the Statue of Liberty, but they can't because if they put their hands on her without her consent, it's sexual harassment, so that's never going to happen. It's a great joke. If anybody steals it, I'll shoot you. Good for Trump. He's had enough of this fucking dog shit.
I am your voice.
Secretary Ryan McCarthy. Trump's remarks come after spokesman for the Army, Secretary Ryan McCarthy, said, what did he say in Monday interview with Politico, that he is open to a bipartisan discussion on whether to rename 10 bases and facilities that are named after Confederate figures. Are you really open to that? Well, your boss, who is the president, chief and commander-in-chief, says otherwise. So you'll have to wait till he's out. Imagine, now I get military guys saying
Son
this.
of a whore!
Our Army spokesman, Colonel Sunset Belensky, hell of a name, said Defense Secretary Mark Esper also supports possible discussions on the matter. Oh, my God. On Tuesday, retired U.S. Army General and former CIA Director David Petraeus, this one shocked me, urged for the removal of the names of Confederate figures from U.S. Army bases around the world.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
They're not real book smart, the military guys, even the high-ranking ones. Imagine we got the let's kick that around. I can't even wrap my brain around this. It's part of the history. Got the military agreeing with tactics that fucking Hitler used. Yeah, let's erase the bad things that we... Ay, ay, ay. I talk about how brainwashed these kids are that are cutting Columbus's head off and pulling down statues. And boy, here's evidence of one. It almost makes you sad, but I can't help but laugh. Ever see a young chick? And we've showed a few of these on this show. Somebody who's been, this girl might be 20. They literally have suffered brain damage. It's like being born without enough oxygen. What they've done to these kids at colleges and higher education. Watch, I'm going to play a little sound under this, Raz, so don't worry. But watch this chick and look what they've done to this poor girl.
I know I'm not exactly the voice that people need to be hearing right now.
I don't see any tears, by the way.
In fact, I need more confirmation that this is real. I've gotten some, but I need more confirmation that this is real. Trump supporters got an email that said that this email is for patriots only. You've been identified as one of President Trump's fiercest and most loyal defenders, and according to your donor file, you'd make an excellent addition to the Trump army. It goes on to tell them that they would get a limited edition camo Keep America Great hat.
She's not even
to
crying.
Let them know that you are the president's
Pause. You're a horrible fucking actress. Pull a pube out of your nose with some pliers. That's what Burt Reynolds used to do. You're not even crying. Because those feelings aren't yours. They were drilled into your empty skull. I hate to get so angry about a young girl. She has the eyebrows of fucking Brezhnev, though. Holy shit. She's not even crying. Go ahead.
First line of defense when it comes to fighting off the liberal mob. I don't know if you know, Hitler made Jews wear yellow stars. This feels like the reverse of that.
Quiet like a bitch.
Oh, poor you.
Hitler made Jews wear yellow stars. Now they control Hollywood and the news. No tears. I don't see one tear. I'll make you cry. Take my belt off and tan that little bottom of yours. What do you think of that? He's starting another Holocaust. Look what they've done to these kids. Look what they've done. She must be fun on a date, huh? Fellas must be fucking killing to go out with her. What do you want to do tonight, Sharon? Let's go to the Holocaust Memorial for the 12th time. Let's firebomb the White House. That motherfucker's killing Jews.
Quiet like a bitch.
They made him wear yellow stars, green hearts, purple clovers, Lucky Charms. It's magically delicious.
Quiet like a bitch.
These poor kids. Oh my God, look what you've done to them. You fucking socialist, Marxist cocksuckers. And anybody who believes them. Time for a sponsor. I need some cash. This episode is sponsored by Immunologic. You know what? I took it. I've been dieting, so I've been eating nothing but protein. You know, like chicken and stuff. That stuff doesn't move when that's all you're eating. You might as well spackle your asshole shut. And I hadn't gone yesterday. I don't want to give you too much information about me, but I didn't go at all yesterday. Last night, I took a couple of these. Woke up this morning. Holy Christ. It was like the N train flying up. If you're like me, you know how miserable it is to be constipated. You just want something that's going to work instead of trying multiple remedies. Our new sponsor, Immunologic, is a product made from natural multivitamin minerals and amino acids called Aloe Ferox whole leaf capsules. And it does work. Aloe Ferox whole leaf is the world's most remarkable constipation remedy. Although it's not been approved by the FDA, it works in just days to effectively, I'd say hours, clear parasites, worms, and other pathogens from the bowel. It also helps the liver with normal bile flow and is a weight loss remedy, which I could use. I've dropped 4, starving myself, living on chicken fat and fucking salami. Yeah, I'm thin, but my heart's going to clog up in about 5 minutes. Seriously, if you've been constipated before, you know how great it is when things start working like they're supposed to and start rolling again. Just look at Bernie Sanders' face. He's been constipated for about 6 years. Immunologic is a Texas-based company, and you can find all the info on aloe ferox, whole leaf on their website at immunologic.com. And if you go to that website now, which is also displayed on the screen, I guess, you'll get free shipping on your order. That's immunologic.com, and we thank them for sponsoring the show. It's good stuff. It worked last night, I'll tell you that much. I popped 4 of them. I was like Jimi Hendrix in a tub somewhere. Actually, that was, you know who, the guy from The Doors, Jim Morrison. Remember? He died in a tub in London. Big lib. No loss. Jim, speaking of Jims, Jim Jordan. This guy's always on the right side. This guy's always busting the left's balls. He's it seems like he's one of the guys that actually trying to get something done on the right. And that's my other big disappointment. The Republicans are nowhere to be found. All the shit, the rioting, and there's no pushback. Mitch McConnell, none of them. Just cowards, afraid to go to near race. Maybe they just accepted that this is going to be where the fuck are you? I hope they're all cleared out and replaced by real right-wingers. Ones that people are afraid of. That's what I want. Who would that be? I don't know. Find them. It's got to be some in Alabama. Who was the judge down there? Judge Moore, like to date young girls? Throw him in there. He's got a cowboy hat on every campaign video. Riding a car, fucking donkey. But Jim Jordan, he seems to be swinging from the fences all the time. Looks like he's trying. Rep Jim Jordan, I don't know if that's Rep or Republican, promised justice for George Floyd at a Judiciary Committee hearing on police brutality Wednesday morning, and then explained why he opposed calls to defund the police. They had George Floyd's brother come to the hearing and stuff, and they each got to, say their piece. He got to say his piece. And this is Jim Jordan.
Guess what else they understand? They know it is pure insanity to defund the police. And the fact that my Democrat colleagues won't speak out against this crazy policy is just that.
Neither will your Republican colleagues. You're the only one saying anything. Jesus Christ, this is the only guy that has any fire in his belly.
You're gonna eat lightning and you're gonna crap thunder.
Go ahead.
Not frightening. Think about what we've heard in the last few weeks. We've heard the mayors of our two largest cities. Mayor Garcetti said he wants to defund the police. The mayor of New York says he wants to defund the police. The city council in Minneapolis, a veto-proof majority, says they want to defund the police and abolish the department. This Congress started off with the Democrats, folks on the left saying we should abolish ICE, then move to we should abolish the entire Department of Homeland Security. And now they're talking about abolishing the police.
What does that tell you?
This is wrong, and the American people know it's wrong.
Yeah? How about your colleagues, Republicans? Do they know it's wrong? Why are you the only one I see pushing back? Where are the rest of them? Lindsey Graham, where the hell are you? Excuse me. Anybody got an immunologic on them? Living on fucking chicken legs and Slim Jims. Got the diet of Jimmy Walker in 1976. But seriously, I forgot about them wanting to abolish ICE already, and Homeland Security, and now the police. And you fuckers still vote Democrat. And you're like, those are the far left, friend. No. That's your party, Ilhan Omar. She's all for that shit. AOC. That's who you're voting for. I really think that's going to help Trump because they keep taking polls and it's like 80%, 78% of the people to, 20 are in favor of getting rid of the police, defunding the police. It's unbelievable, but the Dems just don't give a shit, But, Joe Biden, he doesn't believe in that because he has to say that because, meanwhile, he's sucking Black Lives Matter's fucking ass. Hey, I want to thank people who make the show possible, you guys who contribute daily at nickandip.com. Since yesterday, Here are the people that have donated money. Edwin Huntsman, California. Alexander Morris, Belgium. Seymour Dix, Washington. Nick Show Matters, very good, Florida. Try not to spend it on e-cigs and hair grease, Ohio. Always the Midwest picking on the Italians. You wish you were Italian, you fucking Italian? Italian, that's a bird's foot. Edward Huntsman again, California. What? Alexander Morris, Belgium. John Campo, Massachusetts. Kevin Huntz, Arizona. Thomas Briggs, Georgia. Sarah Wessner, Florida. James Grassini, Florida. Rose Miller, Michigan. James K. Camano Jr., Nevada. Sweaty Firefighter Balls, Texas. Ernie Foreman, Illinois. Darren Paul DeGroza, New York City. That was a big contribution. I mean, a big one. Thank you so much, Mr. DeGroza. Jack Me Off, California. Jack Me Off. Dewey Oxberger, Pennsylvania. Tim Raleigh, Iowa. Earl Huffman, Florida. David Cottingham, Indiana. Chris Boom Mikes Hansen, Wisconsin. That's one of my joke references. Peter DiPaolo, spelled just like mine. DiPaolo. I don't think I'm related. Thank you, Peter, so much. Maybe we are. I don't know. Florida. And we have 2 Patreon people signed up yesterday, Justin Cole and Zach Lindstrom. Thank you guys very, very much. Obviously, we need this now. And we need this show now more than ever because I've never seen more bullshit. Because this whole thing that we're going through, the rioting, is about race, none of the networks, including Fox, who they usually try their hardest, but even they have to tiptoe around race. That's why it's never going to get solved. It won't be solved by pundits and politicians. So that's why you guys come here. Here's a guy you probably won't see on TV, but we got some audio from. He has an interesting take. Discussing nationwide protests over the killing of George Floyd by Minneapolis police. A white, I love how they put a white, they never put a black sheriff. A white Tulsa Police Department major said Monday systemic racism in policing just doesn't exist. I agree with that 1,000%.
You are correct, sir.
It exists, but it's not systemic. We have the numbers to prove it. We showed Mike O'Mara, president of the PBA of the New York Police Association, yesterday. 375 million interactions last year. Okay? So it's hardly a pandemic, and all of them, almost all of them positive, like he said. Speaking to radio host Pat Campbell on his podcast, TPD Major Travis Yates also suggested that, according to his interpretation of crime data, police should actually be shooting black Americans more frequently. That is not how to put it. I know what he's saying as far as numbers go. They're actually underrepresented as far as getting shot on our... I know what he's trying to say, but that is not how you put it. Actually be shooting black Americans. He's saying because they cause a disproportionate amount of crime, the cops interact with them more. Go ahead. He's basing it on
if a certain group is committing more crimes, more violent crimes, then that number's going to be higher. Well, who in the world in the right mind would think that our shootings should be right along the U.S. Census lines? All of their research says we're shooting African Americans about 24% less than we probably ought to be based on the crimes being committed.
You got to find other words, sir. You got to bring up the numbers and shit. But what he's saying is not incorrect. I like what he said when he said, who in the world in their right mind would think that our shootings should be right along the U.S. Census lines? In other words, well, there's 14% of black people in the country, so only 14%. 68% are white people, so at least 68% of unarmed people who are shot by the cops should be white. And who thinks like that? Obama and Eric Holder, when they used to go to Minneapolis schools and go, more black people, more black kids are being suspended. They just look at the numbers. They wouldn't ask why or whatever. It's called disparate impact. Look it up. But, there's better ways of putting it. All of the research says we're shooting African Americans about 24% less than we probably ought to be. Again, it's just horribly put. The officer was arrested. What? Let me see. Yates expressed displeasure with the largely peaceful protests that have been taking place in big cities and small towns all over the country since Floyd's killing on May 25th. The officer was arrested the next day. Oh, he's talking about the officer who killed Floyd. They were prosecuted. They were fired. What are you doing? What do you mean, justice? Justice at this point has been done, Yates said. Well, then it turned into systemic racism and systemic police brutality. That is what they're trying to say, that all these changes need to come from. This is why we're protesting. This is why we're rioting, because of systemic abuse of power and racism. And he says it just doesn't exist. And it doesn't. If you go by the numbers, it does not. And how many stories have we read on this show where a black kid's out on parole after 3 gun violations or a rape charge and commits another crime, or illegals? I don't want to hear how racist the legal system is.
I think we have time for a quick Patreon question.
Okay, and then we'll have to wrap it up. Here we go. Patreon question. Quindarius Gooch. Tacoma, Washington. What's that, a black Italian guy? With all the talk of borders, I hear many liberals, that would be liberals, claim a border is just a line on a map drawn by old fat fucks. No offense. Fuck you, Quindarius. I'm fucking 58 years old. I guarantee I'm in better shape than you. Look how he spells offense. He can't even spell that right. You dumb fucking gooch. I would love to hear what your deeper take on what a border really is / denotes. Cheers, dude. I think here is where I say suck my nipples, cock or ass, but I'm not into that from dudes. You know what? I'm not even talking to him. Go fuck yourself. There's a lot of fucking passive-aggressive anger there. I'll tell you, want me to explain borders to you, shithead? You know, you're at the supermarket and you put your shit down on the conveyor belt, and you put that thing down so your shit doesn't mix up with their shit? That's what a border's for. If you don't know what the purpose of a border after seeing what we went through as far as illegal immigration last couple of years, you know, you shouldn't be watching the show. But I do thank you for writing in, gooch. No offense. Here's where I say suck my nipples, cock or ass. I'm thinking you're a liberal fag is what you are. All right, that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. And again, even thank him. He's a Patreon member. So maybe I'm wrong there. He's actually paying. Thank you again for watching this week. And don't forget to go to nickdip.com. And when you're watching on YouTube, click that button and subscribe. And make sure you stay subscribed. That's all I got. You guys think it? I will say it. You're very welcome. We'll see you back here on Monday.